I love nothing more than diving deep into relationships with all of you. So, today let's talk about Love is Blind, Episode 6. Hi, I'm Dr. Pam, therapist and passionate couples counselor. And today I'm going to answer this question. Can one conversation change everything in your relationship? It's all going to come down to talking about conflict. And conflict is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, indicators of a relationship's long-term endurance. But most of us were never taught how to handle conflict. So if conflict feels challenging in your relationship, here's what's important for you to know. Healthy conflict skills can be learned. Today I'm going to show you 2 examples. I'm going to show you what healthy conflict looks like, and then I'm going to show you an example where growth is needed, because it is so important to recognize the difference between the two. Also, I do want to mention that Love is Blind is a heavily edited show, so my comments are based solely on what we see in front of us, so I can provide you with relationship insights. And I also think that it's important to say that all of us carry challenges based on whatever we've been through in our life. And so the people on this show offer valuable lessons, and I'm grateful to learn from them and pass it on to you. Okay, let's just dive right into Daniel and Taylor, and I'm going to break down every moment of their tense conversation where Taylor questions whether Daniel followed and unfollowed her on Instagram. And I'm going to show you why this seemingly simple interaction reveals so much more about trust and fear and how relationships are tested under pressure. Okay, so Daniel was called into a meeting with Taylor, as you know, having no idea why.
Hi. Okay.
Whatever you need to say,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I can only imagine what Daniel must have been feeling being called in to meet with Taylor without having any idea why. He sees her visibly upset, and yet before he even knows the reason, he says, "Whatever you need to say, it's okay." I absolutely love this moment. He is reassuring her, letting her know that whatever is on her mind, he is open to listening. That is such a powerful way to create emotional safety and space for a real conversation. And it shows that he is prioritizing connection over defensiveness or fear, which is something so many people struggle to do in moments like this.
I thought, wow, he looks familiar to me. I didn't know if it was because I pictured you a million times through the wall. I'm pretty confident that you had followed me on Instagram not long before coming here.
I do not follow you on Instagram.
Another thing that I really appreciate is how Taylor starts the conversation. She leaves the door open that she could be mistaken. That is such a mature approach because she's not immediately accusing. She's allowing room for clarification. And what's equally important is how Daniel responds. He doesn't get defensive or reactive. He simply says very calmly and clearly that he didn't follow her on Instagram. He maintains a steady, calm demeanor throughout the whole conversation. Now, some might wonder if he's only staying composed because the cameras, but if you notice Daniel in the pods, he consistently stayed pretty calm. He seems to be a pretty steady, emotional person. So it's likely that this calm response is authentic, and perhaps it shows how he can handle difficult conversations. I mean, both Taylor and Daniel are modeling something very valuable here. They are leaving the space for the possibility of misunderstanding and responding without defensiveness. That combination is what keeps a conversation productive and prevents it from escalating.
If you have a picture on your Instagram in front of a Christmas tree with your legs crossed, holding a drink. You don't.
I have a picture of me in front of a fireplace.
Okay.
What I continue to love in this interaction is how Daniel is taking Taylor seriously. He's not dismissing her concerns or brushing her off. He's not saying things like, "That's ridiculous," or minimizing her feelings. Instead, he is thoughtfully responding and giving her the information she's asking for. And on the other side, Taylor is listening too. She's not leaning into accusations or conclusions, and she's not letting her emotions take over. And she appears open to hearing Daniel out and getting to an understanding between them. You can really see both of them making an effort to stay grounded and connected, even in a very uncomfortable conversation. And Taylor is clearly scared and seeking both answers and reassurance. And here's something really important. When you're dating, you don't actually know if you can trust someone until you've been through some kind of conflict or misunderstanding. It is not the absence of conflict that builds trust. It's how a person responds to you when you're feeling scared or vulnerable or unsure. Daniel's response in this moment is so important. How he handles Taylor's fears and questions will show her whether they can face challenges together as a couple. And he needs to see how Taylor handles situations where she's scared and vulnerable. But she needs to ask him these questions, not just for the situation, but so both of them can see how they show up when things get hard. That is how trust is built.
I hope that you can see how that in my brain is like freaking me out. That
Of course.
you may have put the pieces together when we were in the pods, and all of the things that we talked about are all on my Instagram as well.
Again, I really love that Daniel immediately acknowledges Taylor's feelings when he says, of course. He is validating her and communicating that he understands why she would be freaked out. That is such an important moment because here's the thing. Conflict doesn't have to create disconnection. It can actually create connection when it's handled well. By saying, of course, Daniel is meeting her where she's at emotionally. He is validating her experience instead of getting defensive. If he had responded with something like, why would you think that about me, or why would I do that? That would have created disconnection and likely escalated the conflict. But instead, he keeps the door open for connection. Now, that being said, conflict won't always feel connecting. Even with the best communication skills and emotional maturity and the best of intentions, conflict is still challenging. That's because humans, relationships, and emotions are so complex, and there is no perfect script to follow during conflict. But what does make a difference is how you show up. Approaching conflict, especially with self-awareness and emotional maturity and a willingness to stay engaged, will make it so much easier, not easy, but easier.
You don't remember following me on Instagram?
100% I do not. I promise you. I would have told production halfway through if I recognized anything.
I'm hearing you, and I know what you're saying, but I'm still struggling to feel good about it.
If I were counseling Taylor and Daniel through this moment, I would want to slow things down and check in with both of them. I'd ask Daniel, how does it feel to be on the receiving end of Taylor's uncertainty and fears? And then I would ask Taylor, how do Daniel's responses make you feel? Are they helping you feel more secure, or is there something more that you need? And even more important, I would ask Taylor if she knows specifically what she needs from Daniel in order to feel reassured. Often it helps to identify needs and communicate them clearly to our partner when you're going through something like this. In conflict, it's not just about what's said, it's also about understanding how both people are experiencing the moment and knowing what each person truly needs to feel safe and connected to move forward together.
I promise you that I don't remember any.
Because I do have the followers app, so I can see who has followed me and unfollowed me.
I just want to point out here that things are beginning to escalate, and I will explain why in a moment why that's happening.
I understand. It's very possible that at one point I followed you and unfollowed you. I don't remember it. I would remember if I saw you cheating the system, I just wouldn't have done it. I'd be the shittiest of people. And I hope you know I'm not that person.
Well, that's why I'm here.
What's really important to notice here is that both of them are frightened. Taylor is scared because she's unsure if she can trust Daniel, and she's seeking that reassurance. But for Daniel, he's also scared. He doesn't want to lose her. You can almost see him thinking, what if I did somehow follow her and I genuinely don't remember it? He's confident that he wouldn't have knowingly done something like that. In fact, he even says that if he had gone on the show already knowing who she was, he would be the shittiest of people. That's coming from a place of fear and wanting her to see his true intentions. And it's also his way of validating that he understands why she's upset and scared. But at the same time, his own uncertainty is now creeping in, however small, but it is escalating her fear. And this is exactly where conflict can easily get tense. Fear fuels conflict. Both people are trying to protect themselves, and without careful attention, those fears can spiral out of control and pull them further apart. In conflict, it's not just about the words that escalate things, but also unspoken fears that we're feeling. And recognizing when fear is driving the conversation is so important to slowing things down. That's why when I'm counseling a couple during conflict, I like to ask questions about how each of them are experiencing that moment. Because believe it or not, it can actually elicit empathy when you know your partner's scared. And you might not see it, but when they tell you, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's like, it's very possible.
I'm going to look.
Okay. I wish I could say for 100% certainty that I didn't follow you or unfollow you, you know? But I just don't know. If I'm there, I just hope you know that, like, I truly came in with nothing.
As Daniel's fears and uncertainty begin to unfold, you can see that Taylor's fear is intensifying as well. When she says, "I'm going to look," there's an edge in her voice. But if you listen closely, that's not anger, it's fear. It's her need to find something tangible, something that makes sense so she can feel safe again. And this brings up an important question. What do you do when trust is in question, but there's no clear, tangible evidence to give you certainty? How do you handle that? I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but let's keep watching.
Is there Wi-Fi? Anybody? Bueller.
I know. God damn.
I love this moment. In my experience when working with couples, humor, when used at the right time, can really help diffuse tension and bring down the heat of a conversation. And the reason it works so well here is because it was unexpected. It catches both of them off guard in a light and natural way without dismissing the seriousness of the moment. And timing is everything. And in this case, it landed perfectly. It was a much needed connecting moment.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. I need to know too, you know?
Now I feel crazy.
No, please don't feel crazy. My feelings for you haven't changed.
Taylor goes through her unfollow list and doesn't see Daniel. She begins to feel crazy, like she's questioning her own reality. And I love that in that vulnerable moment, Daniel doesn't get frustrated or pull away. Instead, he supports her and reassures her that his feelings for her haven't changed. That's huge, especially considering he's the one under pressure and in the spotlight. It's hard for Taylor to feel crazy too, but she wasn't wrong to seek reassurance. No one should be expected to give trust freely without it being built over time. So in moments like this, when someone is scared and vulnerable, that trust can either be strengthened or broken, depending on how both of you handle it.
Do you believe me?
I do.
Yeah. There's like, I promise you, whatever you need to do to like process, I'm okay with.
Even though Taylor says she believes him, Daniel doesn't stop there, which I love. He leaves the door open for her to process more if she needs to. That is such a perfect response because it shows he's not just trying to shut the whole thing down or rush her through whatever she's feeling. He is giving her space to keep working through it and reassuring her that he will work through it with her. And I love that he reaches out and holds her hands. That small gesture connects with her, not just physically, but emotionally too, because it's grounding and reassuring. What really stands out here is how he doesn't show any resentment for what he just had to go through. He doesn't say something like, "I can't believe you just put me through that." Instead, he supports her. And because of that, you can see Taylor starting to lean in and work towards extending that trust in return. In difficult moments, how you respond after conflict is just as important as how you handle the conflict itself. It means a lot to leave space for continued processing, even after getting some sense of resolution, because that will deepen trust and strengthen your relationship. And that is one of the biggest ways to feel confident in your relationship, even if you don't have tangible evidence.
You okay? You sure? I wasn't really sure what to expect coming over here. I was like, my emotions were all over the place. So I appreciate you, like, wanting to talk to me about it instead of just cutting it off.
Well, there it is. Daniel doesn't come right out and say that he was scared that she was going to leave him, but he admits that he wasn't sure if Taylor was about to end things. That's fear showing up. It's a vulnerable moment, and that's what I meant when I said we don't always know how both people are experiencing conflict in the moment. And I really love that he takes a moment to thank her for talking it through with him. Again, another small gesture that shows emotional maturity. A less mature person might have reacted with frustration or defensiveness or even shut down completely. But instead, he acknowledges the effort it took to have the conversation.
I love that he's patient. And I feel really bad because I'm sure the way here his brain was a million places as well.
It would be really helpful for Taylor if she can let go of any guilt that she's feeling about how scared Daniel was. She needed to bring up her fears. This conversation was necessary. So instead of feeling guilty, it might be more helpful for her to lean into self-compassion and empathy for both herself as well as Daniel. Having empathy for him doesn't mean she has to feel guilty for the fact that she needed to address this with him. Taylor initiating this conversation may have felt uncomfortable, but in reality, she was taking a step towards strengthening their relationship. And together, the two of them showed that they have the capacity to work through challenges as a team. Well, let's say that it's a good start. Like I said, not all conflict will go as smoothly as this one did for them. But so far, they are showing that they have the capacity to work things out together. Okay, let's move on to Alex and Madison, who would benefit from some growth work. And I'm going to talk all about that.
What is something that you would not be able to deal with in a relationship?
I feel like you and I are aligned on a lot of things.
We're really similar with a lot.
I think I would be a cute little wifey.
I talked about Madison's avoidant attachment in relationships in a previous video. And here we can see it really playing out. Alex asks her a very good but a very challenging question, and Madison avoids it completely. What's interesting is that even non-verbally she's showing avoidance. She's literally under the blanket, almost like she's shielding herself from the conversation. When she does respond, she doesn't answer the question. Instead, she says that they align, which deflects from what Alex is really asking. Then she takes that further by switching to something light, by saying she'd make a cute little wifey. Avoidant behaviors, whether verbal or nonverbal, are often ways of protecting yourself from vulnerability, but they can block real connection because vulnerability is what connects us. Madison can ask herself if she finds herself deflecting or joking or shutting down, what might happen if I stayed open instead of shutting down?
I think the biggest concern on my end at this point would be the avoidance.
I'm still here, aren't I?
You are, but how do I know that you're not going to get on a plane and leave?
We can really see that Alex's anxious attachment is playing out here. His fear of abandonment is powerful for him. And as I shared in my previous video, anxious attachment often leads people to constantly seek reassurance from their partner to calm that fear. Here's the sad truth. No relationship comes with an automatic guarantee, but that doesn't mean that relationships have to be unstable. It means that trust and security are built and strengthened over time by investing in each other and doing the work together. Equally important, though, is doing your individual growth work as well. Part of healing anxious attachment is learning to turn inward, not just outward. Yes, a strong, consistent relationship helps, but lasting security comes when you can reassure yourself as well. It means accessing your inner world, reminding yourself of moments when you felt secure in your relationship, when you feel anxious, and recognize that your worth and safety do not solely depend on external validation from your partner. Alex is looking to Madison for reassurance, but his growth will come when he begins to trust himself more. I mean, I'm not suggesting that this is easy work to do, but it is doable.
Like, you weren't nervous that you'd walk into this pod and I wouldn't be here, right?
No, I don't think so. Maybe there's like a 3% chance in my brain.
No. You just gotta trust.
Of course, we don't know what has been edited out, but it's clear that the unhealthy, anxious, avoidant attachment is unfolding here. We saw Madison avoid answering Alex's question, so she didn't have to show any vulnerability. And now she's slipping into the more familiar, comfortable role of reassuring Alex. She provides him that reassurance because it feels safer for her, because it keeps the focus off her fears. Meanwhile, Alex believes he is getting what he needs, her reassurance. But what he truly needs is to pause and reflect on why he feels so unsettled without constant reassurance. For Madison, learning to tolerate the discomfort of vulnerability by honestly sharing her fears would open the door to deeper connection rather than staying safe and being the one who always reassures. Again, I am not suggesting that any of this is easy work. It's frightening to step out of old patterns and comfort zones, but I firmly believe that comfort zones are expanded through discomfort. I say that to people I counsel all the time. Every small step you take, even when it feels uncomfortable or frightening, gradually turns the unfamiliar into something that feels safe and familiar over time.
About Mason, honestly, he was really devastated.
He was not very nice to me.
He was telling me that he told you something and like you had talked to his other connection and it screwed him over.
Well, I think it's important to question, why did Alex feel the need to bring up this conversation that he had with Mason to Madison? First of all, it shows a lack of boundaries. If I were Madison, I would have asked him directly why he felt it necessary to bring Mason into their conversation. Here's what I think. Whatever Alex heard from Mason likely triggered some fear or doubt, anxiety about Madison for him. So instead of addressing that fear openly or even addressing it within himself, he sides with Mason and subtly challenges Madison.
It's just uncomfortable, like, for someone to be like, I'm committed to you, and then the next day just like be like, I didn't mean that. It was really upsetting to me.
I understand that perspective. I think I'm just a very understanding person.
So Alex claims that he's just an understanding person, while not actually showing any understanding toward Madison in that moment. And just to be clear, I am not suggesting that Madison handled things well with Mason. I discussed that in my last video. This isn't about taking sides. It's about noticing how Alex is avoiding direct communication about his own feelings, as well as not respecting boundaries. What's really going on here is that Alex doesn't fully trust his own feelings, so he leans on what Mason says instead. That happens when someone feels unsure or insecure in a relationship. They look to others for answers. But by bringing Mason into it, Alex crosses a line and he hurts Madison's feelings. A better way would be for Alex to ask himself, why did what Mason said bother me? What am I feeling unsure about right now? Then talk to Madison directly about his feelings, instead of using Mason's perspective to challenge her.
Yeah, I guess so. I get that you're understanding, but I almost feel invalidated in that.
No, I think you're completely valid. I also think he's completely valid, and I
He's
think...
completely valid in saying that he's committed to me and then taking it back.
So as this conversation continues, Alex doubles down, trying to persuade Madison to see things his way. But he still isn't offering any real understanding of her perspective. Simply telling someone that they're valid isn't the same thing as actually making them feel validated. The tricky thing about validation is you don't have to agree with someone to offer it. You're simply acknowledging their experience. And this can be difficult for most people. But honestly, Alex's struggle here really has everything to do with his own anxiety.
I was hurt by him, and it just sucks for you to be like, well, he's so valid. What I'm probably looking for here is not to hear how valid he is. I just was looking for you to be like, yeah, I'm sorry he made you feel that way.
I'm definitely sorry that he made you feel that way.
Madison does a good job here of clearly saying what she needs from Alex, but chances are she needs even more since he did cross a line by bringing this up with her. And Alex's apology, they're just words. There is no understanding behind his words, and he shows that to be the case when he does this.
I was hurt by him, and it just sucks for you to be like, well, he's so valid. What I'm probably looking for here is not to hear how valid he is. I think I just was looking for you to be like, yeah, I'm sorry he made you feel that way.
I'm definitely sorry that he made you feel that way.
And that's exactly why Alex's apology falls flat. He says he's sorry for how Madison felt, but immediately doubles down into defending Mason, making it clear that his focus is still on justifying Mason and not genuinely hearing Madison. At its core, this is, like I said, more about Alex's anxiety based on what he heard from Mason say about Madison than it is caring about what Mason went through. Meanwhile, Madison tries to create a boundary by telling Alex she doesn't want to hear about it. But the challenge with setting a boundary like this without real resolution is that the underlying hurt and resentment remain unresolved. And over time, those feelings are likely to grow. So Alex tries to shift to a different topic and talks about a possible future Christmas morning together. And this happens.
I am having a hard time thinking future-minded right now.
It's happened a lot over there.
Sorry. Am I making you anxious?
I think so, yeah.
Sorry.
Alex's anxiety is so often front and center. Madison even asked if she is making him anxious, when in reality she's not responsible for his anxiety, especially when all she did was communicate that she couldn't easily shift from feeling hurt and invalidated to talking about future Christmases together.
When you kind of like shut down or don't talk to me, it's hard for me to know what to do.
Well, I did tell you. I said I just didn't want to hear how valid Mason was.
Mm-hmm.
That was so unhelpful to me.
She is being direct with him by letting him know that she doesn't want to hear about Mason. She did tell him that she felt invalidated by him. This is what I meant when I said that if it's left unresolved, Madison would harbor hurt and resentment.
I'm sorry about that. I maybe shouldn't have said that. I'm maybe a little too understanding at times. I apologize if that made you feel invalid.
I respect your apology. I'm crying again and
You're crying right now?
yes.
When Alex again says that he's just too understanding, what's really going on here is he's avoiding taking real ownership of how he crossed a boundary with Madison. He doesn't pause to reflect on why he felt the need to bring Mason into the conversation, which makes his apology feel not meaningful at all. A deeper apology would come from him recognizing his role, for him to get curious about his feelings and understanding how that influenced the way he approached Madison, and then communicate all of that understanding to her. That would have been a meaningful apology. So as this conversation continues, Madison shares that she feels a hesitation from Alex and says that that scares her. And Alex expresses that he is hesitant about the communication and then says this.
What I don't want, though, is a relationship with miscommunication and fighting.
I can't sit here and promise you that we'll never disagree on anything or fight about things. I think you're trying to avoid all of those things, and that's really unrealistic.
Alex is being unrealistic, and he is not recognizing what he contributes to challenging conflict. So I would imagine if this discussion happened outside the pods, it would have escalated either into full-blown conflict with Madison withdrawing and Alex pursuing her to ease his anxiety, or it just would have shut everything down altogether. This is never a good way to resolve conflict, but the two of them are locked into an attachment pattern. And I didn't show you this in the clip, but Alex says to Madison, "Can you reassure me," again, the reassurance, that we can communicate effectively. But what he doesn't realize is that what he is really asking her is to always manage his anxiety for him. So she doesn't say exactly what he needs to hear. It sometimes can be the case that people with anxious attachment are looking for specific words. And if they don't hear them, they stay in an anxious state.
And I think at this point, it's a pretty big jump.
Like, you don't think we can get there?
We're not at a point to get engaged.
Hey.
So it comes to an end. Let me say this. People with anxious and avoidant attachment styles can grow into a more secure connection. It's absolutely possible. But the key is a shared commitment. Both people have to be willing to do their individual growth work and put in the effort to grow their relationship together. I think sometimes all the information out there on social media can make it seem like anxious and avoidant attachment dynamics are doomed, but they're not. But it does take self-awareness, consistency in working on your own growth, and the mutual effort in your relationship. In Madison and Alex's case, we're seeing how hard it is when that balance isn't there. Without both people being ready to face their patterns and meet each other halfway, the relationship naturally reaches a point where they get stuck, and in this case, they can't continue. So you can see the drastic difference here between how Alex and Madison handle conflict compared to Daniel and Taylor. Alex and Madison never got to true understanding, while Taylor and Daniel engaged more openly and constructively. So for all of you watching, this is the takeaway. It's not about being perfectly secure. It's about whether both people are willing to do the work to move towards security together. Okay, that's a wrap on episode 6. Make sure to come back for episode 7 because there's so much more dynamics going on and I can't wait to break it down for all of you. And if you found today's tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on love, relationships, and personal growth. See you next time.